My family went on a 2-week vacation, offering me a second job to support their lifestyle. "Cook us dinner," they texted me before returning. So I set them a table, but IT was all I left them before I moved out. My name is Shirley, and I just graduated from State Community College last month. I got through school on a full scholarship, which was a good thing because my parents made it clear from day one that they weren't going to help me financially. That was fine by me. I didn't want to be a burden. So I got a job at The Grind, a coffee shop near campus, and worked there throughout my 4 years of college. I managed to save enough to buy myself a decent laptop for studying and a new phone when my old one died. What bothered me, though, was watching my parents help my older sister Janet every time she visited. Janet's been married to her husband Greg for 5 years, and they have 2 kids, Tommy, who's 4, and little Sarah, who just turned 2. Whenever Janet showed up at our house with the kids in tow, my parents would slip her some cash. "Here's a little something for groceries," Mom would say, pressing bills into Janet's hand. "Buy those children some new clothes," Dad would add, reaching for his wallet. After this happened for the 3rd time in a month, I finally asked Mom about it when we were alone in the kitchen. "How come you guys help Janet out with money, but you've never offered to help me with anything?" I asked, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. Mom's face hardened. "Janet has children to take care of. Surely you only have yourself." End of discussion. When graduation day finally came, my parents threw a party at our house. I should have been happy, but I knew they'd just use it as another opportunity to show off what supportive parents they were. "We'll handle everything," Mom said. "You just focus on enjoying your big day." I later found out handling everything meant using the $500 I'd been saving for 2 months to pay for the party. They invited all our relatives and their friends from church, and spent the whole evening soaking up compliments. "You two have done such a wonderful job with both your girls," my Aunt Marge gushed. "The way you support them is just amazing," added my dad's friend from work. I stood there with a fake smile plastered on my face, biting my tongue to keep from telling them all the truth. Near the end of the party, as people were starting to leave, my Uncle Pete cornered me by the punch bowl. "So Shirley, what's next for you?" he asked. "Got any plans now that you've got that degree?" "I'm planning to get a job and rent my own place," I said. Before I could continue, Mom swooped in, putting her arm around my shoulders. "Oh, Shirley doesn't need to rush into renting," she said in that sweet voice she used when she wanted to impress people. "She can stay here with us for now, save on rent." I turned to look at her, surprised. This was the first I'd heard of this offer. "That's so generous of you, Linda," Uncle Pete said to Mom. "Rent is through the roof these days. It's so hard for young people to get started." The next morning at breakfast, Mom and Dad brought it up again. "We meant what we said last night," Dad said, buttering his toast. "You can stay here while you're looking for work. No need to waste money on rent right now." "Thanks," I said. "I'll think about it." And I did think about it while job hunting. I sent out dozens of resumes and got a position at Merchant Trading Company pretty quickly. It was entry-level work, mostly data entry and answering phones, but it was a start. The problem was my starting salary of $2,800 a month wouldn't get me the kind of apartment I wanted. Everything in my price range was way out in the suburbs, which would mean a 2 to 3 hour commute each way. Meanwhile, my parents' house was a 15-minute walk from my new office. After crunching the numbers, I reluctantly told my parents I'd stay with them for a while. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, giving me a hug that felt genuine for once. For about 2 weeks after I started my new job, things were different. Mom made my favorite meals. Dad asked about my day when I got home. I actually started to think maybe they'd finally begun to appreciate me. Then I got my first paycheck. "Surely we need to talk," Dad said that evening at dinner. Mom nodded in agreement. "We're happy to have you here," Mom began. "But you're a working adult now." "That's right," Dad continued, "so we expect you to contribute $400 a month for rent, and another $200 for food." I nearly choked on my meatloaf. $600 a month? That was more than 20% of my take-home pay. "That seems kind of steep," I said carefully. "It's far less than you'd pay for your own place," Mom pointed out. "And it includes utilities." I couldn't argue with that. "Okay." I agreed. "I can manage that." And so began my new routine. I worked Monday through Friday, paid my rent on the 1st of each month, and tried to save whatever I could from what was left. I wasn't building my savings as quickly as I'd hoped, but at least the balance was going up instead of down. For a few months, things were stable. Not great, but manageable. Then one evening in October, I came home from work to find the living room packed with suitcases. Janet was sitting on the couch, looking annoyed. Greg was pacing back and forth. Tommy was running in circles around the coffee table, and Sarah was crying in my mother's arms. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down my purse. Janet looked up at me with a scowl. "Greg got demoted," she said flatly. "We can't afford our apartment anymore. We're moving in until things get better." I forced a smile, but inside I was screaming. This was not going to end well for me. I could feel it. My predictions about Janet moving in were spot on. Within days, my life turned into a nightmare. Janet didn't work. She stayed home all day with the kids, supposedly taking care of them. But as soon as I walked through the door after work, she'd be grabbing her purse. "Oh, good. You're home," she'd say, already halfway out the door. "Tommy needs help with his coloring book, and Sarah just woke up from her nap." Before I could respond, she'd be gone, dragging Greg along to meet friends or go shopping. Sometimes they wouldn't come back until after the kids were asleep. The first few times, I didn't mind. I love my niece and nephew despite everything. But after 2 weeks of this routine, I was exhausted. I'd work all day, then come home to babysit until bedtime. My own chores, laundry, meal prep for the next day, even showering, got pushed to late at night when I was already dead on my feet. One evening at dinner, I finally spoke up. "I can't keep watching the kids every night," I said, pushing my food around on my plate. "I'm really tired after work." The table went silent. Then Janet scoffed. "Are you serious right now?" she said. "You think you're tired? Try being a mom." Dad put down his fork. "Surely family helps family. That's what we do." I looked at them incredulously. "Then why don't you guys watch the kids sometimes?" Mom shook her head. "We're too old to be chasing after little ones all evening." For the next month, nothing changed. I kept babysitting, kept working, kept paying my rent. My savings account, which I'd been so proud of, stayed stagnant. Then, about 2 months after Janet and her family moved in, Mom and Dad dropped another bomb at dinner. "Surely," Dad began in his serious voice, "we need to increase your rent. Our expenses have gone up with more people in the house. We're asking for an additional $200 a month." I nearly choked. $800 a month. That's almost a third of my paycheck. "It's still cheaper than renting your own place," Dad pointed out. I looked around the table at my sister and her husband. "How much are Janet and Greg paying?" Silence. Mom and Janet exchanged a quick glance. "Your sister can't afford to pay rent right now," Mom finally said firmly. "She has a family to support. You're single with no responsibilities. You need to help out more." Something inside me snapped, but I held it together. "I see," was all I said. That night, I started searching online for apartments near my work. The cheapest decent one-bedroom was $1,500 a month, plus utilities. With my current salary, it would be tight, but I could make it work if I was careful. The problem was the upfront costs, first and last month's rent, security deposit. I'd need at least $4,000 to move in. I decided to hunker down and save aggressively. No more coffee shop visits, no more takeout lunches, no more new clothes. Every spare penny would go into my escape fund. But the universe, or more accurately, my family, had other plans. A week later, the washing machine broke down. Mom came to my room that night, looking apologetic. "Surely, I hate to ask, but we need a new washing machine. With 5 adults and 2 kids in the house, we can't go to the laundromat. Could you lend us some money? We'll pay you back, I promise." I spent $700 on a new washing machine. Not top of the line, but decent. A month later, when I casually mentioned the loan to Mom, her expression changed instantly. "Are you really asking your parents to pay you back?" she said, eyes narrowing. "After everything we've done for you?" "But you said I can't believe how ungrateful you've become," she interrupted. "We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head." I retreated, feeling like I'd been slapped. So much for that money. The hits kept coming. Next it was the living room furniture, which had been destroyed by Tommy and Sarah. Crayon on the sofa, juice spilled on the armchair, mysterious tears in the upholstery. "Thanksgiving is coming up," Dad reminded me. The whole family will be here. We can't let them see the living room like this. Another $1,200 gone. Then it was a new coffee maker, $150, a microwave oven, $200, and a dishwasher, $500. Each purchase was supposedly urgent. Each one promised to be the last thing they'd ever ask for. My savings dwindled. Instead of growing toward my $4,000 goal, my account balance was shrinking. Every time I checked it, my heart sank a little more. Then December arrived, bringing cold weather and a new crisis. The roof is leaking, Dowd announced one morning. If we don't fix it before spring, the whole house could flood when the rains come. How much will it cost? I asked, already knowing where this was going. About $3,000, Mom said. We know it's a lot, but it's urgent. $3,000. Almost everything I had left. But what choice did I have? It was their house, but it was my home too, at least for now. Fine, I said, writing them a check with a shaking hand. But I really can't afford any more big expenses. Of course, honey, Mom said soothingly. This is the last thing, I promise. Dad nodded. We'll get the contractor out here next week. But the contractor never came. When I asked about it, Dad mumbled something about scheduling difficulties. Mom changed the subject whenever I brought it up. Then came the Saturday morning that changed everything. I woke up late, enjoying my day off, and wandered downstairs to find suitcases by the front door. Mom, Dad, Janet, Greg, and the kids were bustling around, packing the car. What's going on? I asked, still half asleep. Mom looked startled to see me. Oh, good morning, sweetie. We're going on a little trip. A trip? Where? Florida, Dad said cheerfully. Our friends have a guest house there. We're staying for 2 weeks, through Christmas. Where did you get the money for a Florida vacation? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Mom at least had the decency to look guilty. We used the roof money. We'll save up again for repairs after the holidays. My vision blurred with anger. You mean my money? The $3,000 I gave you for an emergency roof repair? Now surely, Dad said in his warning tone, don't make a scene. But I was beyond caring. I gave you that money because you said it was urgent. I've been giving you money for months while I pointed at Janet and Greg, who were pretending not to listen, live here for free. If you don't have enough money, Mom said coldly, then you need to work harder. Maybe get a second job. Yeah, Janet chimed in. That's what adults do when they need more money. And just like that, they left. All of them. Leaving me alone in the big empty house with a leaking roof and a breaking heart. After they drove away, I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours. The house was quiet for the first time in months. No kids screaming, no Janet complaining, no parents guilting me into something. Just silence. In that silence, everything became clear. This would never stop. They would keep taking and taking until there was nothing left of me. Not my money, not my energy, not my self-respect. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Lisa, my friend from work. She had mentioned a few weeks ago that her sister was looking for a roommate. Hey Lisa, I said when she answered. Is your sister still looking for someone to share her apartment? Can I get her number? Lisa's sister Megan lived in an apartment just 2 blocks from my office. Perfect location, reasonable rent. I called her immediately. Lisa told me all about you, Megan said after I introduced myself. She says you're super reliable and clean. I'd be happy to have you as a roommate. The next morning, I called a moving company and booked them for same-day service. Then I walked through the house, making a list of everything I'd purchased with my own money. The washing machine, the living room furniture, the coffee maker, the microwave, the dishwasher. Hello? I said when the moving company answered. I need to move some furniture and appliances today. Yes, it's somewhat urgent. They arrived 2 hours later. By evening, everything I'd bought was installed in Megan's apartment. She was thrilled. This is amazing, she said, running her hand over the new sofa. My place was so empty before. Glad it works out, I said, arranging my clothes in my new closet. That night, I slept better than I had in months, maybe years. My new room was small but clean, with a window overlooking a little courtyard. More importantly, it was mine. For the next 2 days I went to work, came home to my new apartment, and enjoyed the peace. I didn't tell my parents I'd moved out. What would be the point? Then, 2 days before Christmas, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. We'll be home tomorrow afternoon. Please have dinner ready. Nothing fancy. Just something warm. I laughed out loud. They still thought I was their personal chef, maid, and ATM. The next day, I left work early and went back to my parents' house one last time. I ordered food from a cheap Italian place nearby, pasta, salad, garlic bread. I set it all out on the dining table, which was now the only piece of furniture in the living room. I even put out plates and silverware. Then I left, locking the door behind me with the key I would never use again. The next morning, Christmas Eve, I woke up to a barrage of missed calls and angry texts. From Dad, "Where is all the furniture? Call me now." From Mom, "What have you done? Call me immediately." From Janet, "You are such a selfish bastard. Mom is crying because of you." I silenced my phone and made myself a cup of coffee in the new coffee maker. At 10 a.m., after I'd had breakfast and a shower, I finally called Mom. She answered on the first ring. "Shirley, what is going on? You can't just take things from our house." "I didn't take anything that wasn't mine," I said calmly. "I paid for all of it. Check your credit card statements if you don't believe me." "But where are you?" "I moved out. I found a place closer to work." There was a pause, then Mom's voice changed from angry to wheedling. "Honey, come home, let's talk about this. Christmas is tomorrow, we're family, we should be together." "Family doesn't exploit each other," I said. "Family doesn't take $3,000 for an emergency roof repair and spend it on a vacation to Florida." "We made a mistake," Mom admitted. "We'll pay you back. Just come home for Christmas." I almost wavered, almost. Then I heard Janet's voice in the background. "Tell her we need money for the roof repair now." And just like that, my resolve hardened again. "I won't be coming back," I said. "Not for Christmas, not ever. And I won't be giving you any more money. But the roof is not my problem," I finished for her. "You own the house, you figure it out." "You ungrateful," Mom started, but I cut her off. "Goodbye, Mom, Merry Christmas." I hung up and blocked their numbers. All of them, Mom, Dad, Janet, even Greg. Then I turned off my phone completely and went for a long walk around my new neighborhood. The next day was Christmas. Megan had gone to her parents' house for the holiday, so I had the apartment to myself. I made a nice breakfast, watched Christmas movies, and ordered Chinese food for dinner. People might think it sounds sad, spending Christmas alone. But it wasn't. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. No one was taking advantage of me. No one was making me feel bad about myself. No one was draining my bank account or my energy. 6 months have passed since I moved out of my parents' house. 6 months of peace, of saving money, of building a life that's truly mine. Living with Megan has been great. We get along well, split the chores fairly, and respect each other's space. On weekends, we sometimes cook dinner together or binge-watch shows, but there's no obligation, no guilt trips if I want to spend the evening alone in my room. Last month, my cousin Rachel called me. "I thought you might want to know," she said hesitantly. "Your parents had to take out a loan to fix the roof." I wasn't surprised. "How do you know?" "Your mom told my mom. She made it sound like they're struggling because you abandoned them." Rachel paused. "I told my mom what really happened. I hope that's okay." "It's more than okay," I said. "Thank you." Rachel also mentioned that Janet and her family were still living with my parents, but things had changed. Mom and Dad had started charging them rent and making them contribute to groceries. Work has been going well. 2 months ago, I was assigned to lead a small project team, and I knocked it out of the park. Yesterday, my boss called me into her office. "Surely I've been impressed with your work," she said. "We're creating a new assistant manager position in the department, and I want you to apply for it." "Really? That would be amazing," I said, trying to contain my excitement. "The salary would be $48,000 a year," she continued. "That's a significant bump from what you're making now. A 10,000 raise. With that kind of money, I could get my own place sooner than I'd planned." That night, I started browsing apartment listings online. Nothing too fancy, just a small 1-bedroom within walking distance of work. I found a few in my price range, all with June or July availability. Perfect timing if I get the promotion. I've also been researching interior design. Nothing expensive, just ideas for making a space truly my own. I've started a digital mood board with color schemes, furniture styles, and organizational hacks. I'm thinking light blues and grays with yellow accents, minimalist furniture, lots of plants, a calm, peaceful sanctuary that's all mine. Last weekend I was shopping at Target when I saw them, Mom, Dad and Janet, pushing a cart down the home goods aisle. I ducked behind a display, but not before Janet spotted me. We made eye contact for a brief second before she nudged Mom and pointed in my direction. Mom glanced over, then deliberately turned her cart and went the other way. Dad followed without looking back. It stung a little, I won't lie. But then I remembered all those months of exploitation, all that money they took from me, and the sting faded. They made their choice, and I made mine. I saw them again 2 weeks ago at the grocery store. This time, it was just Mom and Janet. They were arguing over something in the cereal aisle. I walked past them with my basket, and neither of them acknowledged me. I didn't approach them either. What would be the point? My Aunt Marge called me the other day. She's Dad's sister and has always been more reasonable than the rest of the family. Your parents are struggling with the loan payments, she said. They've been asking around the family for help. I hope no one's giving them money, I replied. Most of us know better by now, Aunt Marge said. Your cousin told us what they did to you. I'm not surprised they're looking for their next victim, I said. Janet and Greg are still there, Aunt Marge continued. But your parents started charging them rent about 3 months ago. Janet's furious about it. Says they promised she could live there for free. Sounds familiar, I said dryly. They fight all the time now. Your mom called me crying last week because Janet called her a selfish old witch. I couldn't help but laugh. The irony. Are you ever going to talk to them again? Aunt Marge asked. I sighed. Not anytime soon. Maybe someday, if they ever genuinely apologize and change their ways. But I'm not holding my breath. I don't blame you, she said. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Her support meant a lot. It was good to know that not everyone in the family believed my parents' version of events. Last night, Megan and I were having dinner when she asked if I'd found any apartments I liked. A few, I said. I'm waiting to hear about that promotion before I make any moves. I'll miss having you as a roommate, she said. But I get why you want your own place. Thanks for understanding, I said. And for being such a great roommate these past 6 months. You really helped me when I needed it. That's what friends do, she said simply. And she's right. Real friends, real family, help each other without keeping score, without exploiting each other's vulnerabilities. This morning, I got an email from HR asking me to come in for an interview for the assistant manager position next Tuesday. I spent the afternoon preparing answers to potential questions and picking out my outfit. As I hung my blazer back in the closet, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked different somehow, more confident, less weighed down. It wasn't just that I was smiling more. There was a lightness to me that hadn't been there before. 6 months ago, I was drowning financially, emotionally, spiritually. I was being drained dry by people who were supposed to love me. Now I'm building a life on my terms. I have a shot at a better job, I'm saving for my own place, and I'm surrounded by people who respect me. Do I miss my family sometimes? The honest answer is yes. I miss the family I wish I had. The one that would have supported me the way they supported Janet. The one that would have been proud of my accomplishments. The one that would have treated me with basic respect. But I don't miss the family I actually had, the one that saw me as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. Maybe someday they'll change. Maybe someday we'll have a relationship again. But I'm not waiting around for that day to come. I'm moving forward. My life is just beginning, and for the first time it truly feels like mine.